Hassan Piker ended up coming out on Piers Morgan, and I have to say, congratulations, you made it onto the mainstream audience, and now you're able to spread the ideas you want to spread. So, to that, congratulations and respect for that. Nonetheless, though, I do want to go ahead and talk about this because I thought it was hilarious at times. So let's go ahead and start off with a couple of Twitch clips because I want to go ahead and show them to you guys. And as usual, if you guys want to go ahead and check out the full context, which I highly encourage you guys to do, I'm going to go ahead and link it down below with the timestamps so you can go ahead and check it out for yourself. So let's go ahead and get started.
IDF didn't bomb the hospital. Change title. IDF didn't bomb the hospital. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. You piece of shit. Yes, it absolutely did. You want to know why I know that? Because they bombed that same hospital 2 days ago. And also on top of that, they told that hospital and 6 other hospitals in the Gaza region to evacuate. You genocidal scumbag. You have no dignity. You do not have an ounce of dignity inside of your soul. Go ahead. What will you say to that?
Yeah, Hassan is raging just a little bit. But it does take a little bit of time for that particular chatter to respond back, which is why I cut it. But when he does respond, my dude, Hassan loses it. If Hassan was attempting to perform breathing exercises to calm himself down, he would breathe fire.
Clear and coherent. But it doesn't matter. Terrible that the people died, but I encourage you to look into where Hamas was firing. You f***ing piece of shit. You garbage, monstrous scumbag. You garbage, monstrous scumbag. You said IDF didn't bomb the hospital, and then you said it did. But Hamas was firing rockets from it in the same 2-minute time frame. So why did you f***ing lie at first? Huh? Why did you f***ing lie? How can you live with yourself, you genocidal piece of shit? How? Why did you do that? Why did you say IDF didn't bomb the hospital and then immediately retaliated to, well, I guess they did, but because Hamas was firing rockets.
I haven't seen a Hassan rage in a very long time, and his compilation for raging is somewhat short. But this one is definitely going to be added to one of those moments because, man, this guy he was unhinged. But the thing is that I want to go ahead and check out the transcript before we move over to the Piers Morgan interview. So if you take a look at the transcript between the chatter and Hassan, you will see that it reads, change title, IDF didn't bomb the hospital. Terrible that people died, but I encourage you to look into where Hamas was firing rockets, right next to the hospital. As you can see from the exchange of these messages, you can see that the chatter, he's not exactly being contradictory at all if you read them. However, Hassan, he believes that this chatter in particular is being contradictory, hence why Hassan is really upset. Aside from the fact that he was already getting upset because of all the information that was coming out about Israel. Is it justified to treat a chatter the way he did? Absolutely not, man. You don't ever want to come off like that. But I understand at the same time that the political world can be a hostile place. Very hostile, in fact. And almost everybody in this political sphere speaks English because no one wants to hear how and everybody just wants to be mean to each other so long as it doesn't fit their own narrative. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and move on to the Piers interview because believe it or not, Piers actually brings this up to Hassan. And it's quite interesting what Hassan says.
While I was in the process of getting ready for the stream, Israel enacted one of the singular worst strikes they have done thus far, and an Israeli airstrike hit the Al Ahli hospital in Gaza City, where thousands of civilians were seeking medical treatment and shelter from the relentless bombing campaign.
Now, interestingly, when you were saying that, I was coming on air too. And I took a position based probably on 30 years of being a journalist, running major newspapers, working at CNN and others, of waiting, of just saying, I think we should just wait and see what has actually happened here, get clarification. And yet all the evidence now suggests very strongly that it wasn't, that in fact this was a rocket that misfired coming from a terrorist group inside Gaza. So my question for you is this. Why would you
go that far,
why
Piers.
would you be so certain in what you said before you knew?
So first and foremost, before we get started on this conversation, let's understand something very important here. There's no electricity in Gaza. Internet is patchy in Gaza. There's no food in Gaza. There's no water in Gaza. This is all by design. This is because Gaza is under a brutal blockade, a brutal occupation by the Israeli government. Okay? So that plays a role in the fog of war and the misinformation that gets spread. Having said that, however, you made it seem as though there is a certainty that this was 100% not an Israeli airstrike.
No, I didn't. And instead, I literally just said it's not a certainty.
Okay, sorry.
I said the evidence is increasingly pointing to this not being an Israeli airstrike. And that is expert evidence from people who have no skin in the game at all.
So essentially what Piers Morgan is saying here is that Hassan reported early and did not consider the facts. Instead, he was just so adamantly sure that this was an Israeli attack. Because if you don't know, a lot of media outlets, including independent media outlets, they had the story wrong because they didn't consider the facts. Because they just went with the narrative that Israel was the one who attacked the hospital. But media outlets have retracted that story and have apologized to audiences for misinforming and disinforming them. Hassan, in this case, however, has not retracted his story. If anything, he's doubling down, which is why Piers Morgan is grilling him in his interview.
You took to your airwaves immediately because actually I wouldn't even say unconscious bias, your admitted propagandist bias on your part was that you wanted that to be an Israeli airstrike. It suited your narrative. And I would say that in itself, in its way,
wanted it to be
is
an
being
Israeli
a stenographer. Well, you accuse me of being a stenographer. I try and be fair and get to the truth. In your case, I don't think you try to do that. I think you appeal to your audience, appeal to your base, and you don't really care whether the facts are there or not.
Listen, I just kind of don't understand why Hassan is not just backtracking. I mean, all he has to say is just that it wasn't his fault, that he has his sources and he follows his sources and his sources were incorrect. After all, he ended up citing Reuters in that same stream.
Reuters has confirmed the IDF did this too, by the way.
So he could say that. However, I mean, you and I both know that if you actually watch that stream, he is talking about this as if he is so absolutely adamant that this was the case. And obviously, 2 days later, it just wasn't the case. And even people in this stream knew, his fans, that this was going to turn out a dud.
I showed you the bombing. I showed you the actual footage, the only verified footage so far. Why do you come in here and say this? How do you think? How do you personally think that this will not be verified inevitably further? We've already done the verification. There's already enough evidence to 100% show. Watch you be wrong once again. Keep pushing your fake propaganda.
Which, on that note, talk about propaganda. Hassan admitted that he was a propagandist.
But it's interesting that you call me a propagandist because I want to play you. This was your reaction to when the hospital got bombed.
I'm a propagandist.
Well, no.
For the record.
I'm not calling
I'm a
you that.
propagandist.
I'm just saying. I'm going to play you.
I'm saying I am.
Okay, well then
I'm saying I am. I just before you even play it.
I want to go ahead and say that the video that Piers was about to show Hassan has nothing to do with Hassan being a propagandist. It was just showcasing that Hassan is quick to jump to conclusions without actually waiting to see if the facts align with what's going on in the moment. But I thought it was very interesting how Hassan said that he's a propagandist. My dude, if you're a propagandist, the last thing you want to do is to notify your audience that you're a propagandist. Propaganda works effectively well when your audience has no idea that it's going on. But since we're in the topic of propaganda, let's go ahead and take a look at what the word actually means. Information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. And remember, this was Hassan's words, okay? Hassan is the one saying that he's a propagandist. So in other words, what he's saying is that he's feeding you guys biased information or potentially misleading information, which given Hassan's current situation, yeah, it seems like he's most likely a propagandist. Now, before you guys race off over to Hassan's page and unsubscribe and charge back your donations, let me go ahead and shed a little bit of light, okay? Propaganda isn't always a bad thing, okay? Of course, if you have a political point or a political agenda that you want to push for the better of the nation or even your local state or whatever the case is, then propaganda is probably useful. But the problem with propaganda is that it heavily relies a lot on deceptive techniques like glittering generalities, intentional vagueness, minute control, a lot of loaded language, man. I don't know if you ever listen to Hassan, but whenever he speaks, he says a lot of words that just evoke a lot of emotion out of people. Just listen to how Hassan, just after, like, he doesn't even answer Piers' question. Instead, he just talks about how they're selfish for talking about being a propagandist or whatever the case is. So I'm gonna go ahead and color code the screen so you can see where the propaganda technique is. This is called demoralization.
It's quite a charge to just say, I'm a stenographer for the Israeli government or I'm a propagandist. I don't think there's any evidence that I'm either of those things. I'm curious who you think I am doing
While
the
we're
propaganda
having this
for.
conversation, Piers, while we're having this back and forth, 3,840 Palestinians have been ruthlessly slaughtered in the last incursion into Gaza. I feel like this is an incredibly selfish, self-centered conversation to have. You asked me to be on here. You wanted to hear my perspective. I'm willing to give it to you.
So Piers is attempting to understand why he's a propagandist, and then Hassan will just pivot and just bring up how many people have been eliminated, which that is demoralization. If you want to learn more about it, you can type it up on Google, type up propaganda, demoralization, and then it's going to give you a bunch of articles. It even gives you a Wikipedia article that can give you many sources if you guys want to know more about it, especially in this section right here, sowing seeds of doubt and anxiety. Read that if you guys want to know more about it. But essentially, that's what Hassan is doing. He brings up the idea that 800 people have been eliminated, and so when he says that, the audience back at home, they look at that and like, oh yeah, you guys are being selfish. Why aren't we talking about this instead? So this overall makes Piers Morgan look bad, which again, it's a propaganda technique. That's what it's meant to do. Overall, I thought the interview was pretty entertaining. Another thing is that I can't believe that Hassan is like still doubling down with it. Bro, just pull back. Just pull back. Everybody's already confirmed the fact that you're wrong, and you just got to admit to it at this point. Another thing is that I still can't believe he admitted that he was a propagandist. A propagandist is never really supposed to show their true colors because, again, a propagandist works effectively when nobody knows that you're doing it. But nonetheless, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there, guys. If you guys have any disagreements with me, make sure you guys check out all the sources down below. I link them all down below. If you guys want to check out the full clips, the context, everything, and then form your opinion and then go to the comment section and let me know if I was right or wrong. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. I hope you enjoyed the video. That's all I have for you guys, and yeah, hopefully you guys learned something today.